Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing top 10 comic book Kickstarters of the month. Before I jump into the top 10, I do have some honorable mentions, and of course, my comic book, which is ending on Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's The Dancer issue 1. It's about a young woman who's a dancer slash assassin, and when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. And the other honorable mention, because this is a friend, Danny and Morgan, who are doing LumberJax issue 2, and this is a book about justice by any means, or by all means. It's a really fun superhero book, so definitely go check that out. Now, jumping into the top 10. So number 10 for me is The Greatest Hits. It's an anthology book about music. I am a big fan of music, and especially music in comics, because I've always find that very interesting to see a static medium, something that you read and something you look at. How can you kind of hear music? How can you play music within a comic book? So having a whole anthology about that, I think is a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see what the creators explore here. So that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Sparrow, which is a coming of age teenage girl superhero book, and really hits all the things I really enjoy about comic books. And it's also a father-daughter relationship, because we have our main lead who is taking over the legacy of her dad. It kind of hit all the marks for me. The artwork also looked really solid for this book as well. So that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Boston Metaphysical Society. Madeline, who's working on this book, has done plenty of Kickstarters and also going into the direct market with this book as well. And she's just such a great supporter of Kickstarter. She's also made Soda and Telepaths, 52, I believe, indie creators on that list, so definitely go check out that list. And go check out this comic. This volume, we get to see Caitlin, who controls demons, has been kidnapped, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of action in that one. So that is number 7. That was number 8. Moving on to number 7 is The Last Homicide. And this just seems like a good point A to point B criminal noir, where we get to see this cop that's about to retire, go into a murder mystery of this mob boss's son who dies. And honestly, that's just up my alley. I thought it seemed really interesting. And like I said, a good point A to point B crime story for comics. So that is number 7 for me. Moving on to number 6 is Killeroo. This is just such a fun concept. It's a kangaroo who is also, killing people, an anti-hero. And I don't know, that just sounded really cool to me. It's based in Australia, so, different setting than maybe some other comic books that we see on Kickstarter. And the artwork just looks so good. Especially the model, the creation of the kangaroo itself, the main character. So I'm very excited to read this one, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is We Are Scarlet Twilight, and this is a golden age superhero tale with cyberpunk aesthetic. And I'm like, man, that sounds really different. Very two different genres. One that's more futuristic, one that's about the past. How do you combine these two? And the artwork is definitely leaning towards the golden age pulp hero. And like I said, I'm just really curious to see how this combines, and the art in general just looked really good. So that is my number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Typhoon Days, and this very much embraces more of a cartoon animation style. It is it's set in Hong Kong during the Cold War, so it's very thriller-esque, and really it's the artwork that brought my attention to this one, and just seeing a very different style in comics. And like I said, it just feels like more of an animated cartoon in a comic format, which I thought was really cool. So that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is LOOPBLOCK, and this is a fantasy horror, so you have two very different genres, with a girl whose paintings come to life and a boy who is deaf who wants to become a soldier. And what really brought this to the top here is that, first of all, the artwork looks like this as well, but even just the contrast of these two main characters, it's inspired by Studio Ghibli, and that's just really cool to see that in a comic, and just by the Kickstarter page, you can really see the inspiration from that. I'm curious to see what they pull from those many movies and put into this comic book. So that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is The Dusk, which I actually had Alex on for an interview last week or 2 weeks ago. And we also have a crossover print that's available right now if you back up both our projects. And if you back up both our projects at a physical level, one lucky winner will get a signed copy of that print by me and Alex. And I am so excited to read this book. It's about an ex-baseball player who becomes a superhero. And it's more of a lighter adventure, which I think is fun too. It's also about his relationship with his daughter as he does these super heroics, and also definitely reminds me a lot of Batman the Anime Series. Just the vibe of it, the illustrations look a lot like the Batman the Anime Series comic books. So just looks like a really fun book, and I am, like I said, super excited to read this one, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Inferno Girl Red. I am a huge Power Rangers fan, and I know the writer of this book as well is a huge Power Rangers fan, and that's how he got into comic books and writing comics. And you can definitely see the inspiration here of, first of all, a girl who's the lead, which you don't really get to see as often in the Power Rangers type franchises. And it's in a boarding school. The costumes look awesome. I saw this also promoted in the back of Radiant Black, which I've been really enjoying from Image Comics, and I know that Kyle Higgins is involved with this book in some way. I think he's the editor of this book, so maybe there's some crossover potential, who knows. So I definitely would pick this one up, but I'm just so excited as a Power Rangers fan, as a comic book fan, to check this one out and read it. I'm so glad it's doing so well. So that is my top 10 Kickstarters of the month. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her a Dancer. And every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. And be sure to like this video, subscribe, and comment, because it really does help the channel. Thanks, guys. Bye.